folks, this is Jake with Sale Coffee Gear, and today we're going to be showing you a couple of descaling techniques for your drip brewer. Now, drip brewers do need to be clean and maintained, just like an espresso machine or just like any appliance that you have in your home. And they do require periodic descaling to make sure that any mineral deposits or lime scale are broken down. But there are a lot of options out on the market to do this, and we just wanted to clarify a few things and make sure that you're doing your descaling and cleaning effectively and safely. So the first thing that we get a lot of questions about is, can you descale a brewer with like distilled white vinegar? And at the end of the day, the answer is yes, that is an effective way to remove lime scale, but it's not typically the most common way to do it because it leaves a lot of smell. The aroma of vinegar is hard to get out, especially in machines that have a lot of pipe work that the liquid goes through, especially on something like a Brewer precision brewer, which has a pump. There's additional pipe work that vinegar smell and taste and the acidity, it's pretty hard to get out, but it is typically safe and it is typically effective, but it is not our official recommendation. Now, we do have a lot of cleaning supplies available on our website, and there's three major types for drip brewers. The first one is going to be a powdered descaler like this. It's pretty granular because it is just basically powdered acid. That is what descaling is using, is acid to remove that lime scale buildup. And this is something like Ernex's Descal, or another, BioCaf has a product like this as well. Effective, a little bit hard to dissolve, no odor, and it's really, really good at its job. Now, my personal favorite is actually liquid descaler. So liquid descaler, like Ernex Descal, has a liquid version as well. Really effective, just as equally effective as the powder. A little less easy to store, so if you just want a couple of packets, the liquid comes in a bottle, a little bit larger, not as easy to store. But it does last a long time, so a bottle, packets, it ends up being about the same amount of uses. And the really nice thing about this with drip brewers that I like is you don't have to dissolve the powder. You can just dump this right in the tank. A lot of people will dump descaling powder into their water tank, like of the Techniform here, and that works, but stirring around for 5 minutes to get all that stuff dissolved isn't always the most fun, and it's not always the most effective because that powder can be pulled into your brewer. Not typically an issue, but again, with something like with a pump, like the Brewer, a pump can be affected by large granules at the end of the day. And the third kind of drip brewer cleaning powder that we have, or cleaning product that we have, is like Ernex's Clean Calf. Clean Calf is it's definitely not the major descaling product that we carry. It's not really meant to be your heavy duty descaler for your drip brewer. But if your drip brewer, if you have your basket's tasting a little funky, your craft's tasting a little funky, the coffee's just tasting not exactly how you want it, this does remove a little bit of lime scale while also removing the rancid or residual coffee oils from your entire brewing circuit, from the water tank to the carafe. It's not a strong descaling solution, and it's not something that's really going to get rid of all lime scale buildup. But for periodic maintenance, if you want to do this once a month, keeps your carafes squeaky clean, gets rid of all those stains, and it does help prevent a little bit of lime scale. Now, the next question that we get a lot about descaling is, what if my brewer doesn't have a descaling mode, or what does the descaling mode on my brewer do or mean? So one of the most classic brewers that we have, like this Techniform here, it's simply one button. There's no indicator for descaling or anything like that. If your brewer doesn't have an indicator for descaling, it's kind of important to know how hard your water is in general in the area where you live. If you're using unfiltered water and it's relatively hard, we would definitely recommend doing a descaling every 2, maybe up to 3 months, but every 2 months is a good estimate. There's not much harm you can do if you descale a little bit too much. There's definitely more harm if you descale a little bit too little. So descaling a little bit more often is always going to be a good thing. If you have softer water, or you're using filtered or bottled water, or your area just has naturally soft water, you can definitely push that back to every 3-4 months, and you should be a-okay. But if you're seeing like performance issues with your brewer, you know, it's brewing slowly, the water's not heating, it's giving you an error. If you have a brewer with like a screen, then descaling is a good first step that you should take to get your brewer back up to peak performance. So on drip brewers like this OXO here, or on the Breville here, there are cleaning indicators. The OXO's is located here with a little light, and Breville's is indicated on the screen when it's ready to descale with the descale light that comes on. Generally, these are either time-based or flow meter based. I believe the OXO's is time-based. It is basically every 3 months or so, depending on your water hardness. The light will actually come on, and it's time-based based on a number of cycles, not necessarily like a calendar time, but once you put, you know, X number of pots through this, then you'll be good to go for that descaling light to turn on, and then you're ready to descale. For the Breville, same thing. It's generally volume-based, and with that, you know, you do have a water hardness setting in the Breville so that the time variable changes a little bit. But with either brewer or any brewer that suggests that you descale, it's good just to get the descale out of the way, turns that light off, gets it back to normal, and it gets you all ready to brew your next pot of coffee. And the last thing is how do you descale your brewer? Luckily, it's pretty simple. I'm going to be using the liquid descaler today on the Techniform, and I have a pre-measured amount for this size of brewer. Definitely read the instructions on the packet or liquid that you have, because they vary a little bit in how concentrated they are, and you don't want to be putting too much acid or too little acid when you're descaling. You want it to be just the right amount to keep your brewer healthy and to get rid of that lime scale effectively. So it's almost as simple as putting the liquid in, making sure it's distributed, and running a brew cycle on something like a Techniform. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I've got my, this is Ernex's liquid descale. And as you can see, the liquid certainly does make it a lot easier because ready to go, no stirring necessary. Place the lid, and away we go. And once that's finished up brewing, you're going to want to run another fresh water cycle through it, an entire pot worth of fresh water. Discard the descaling liquid and rinse out your carafe before doing that. So basically you're going to want to do a full tank of this, discard everything in here, rinse out your basket, fill with fresh water, do that again, gets out any residual, you know, descaling solution, and then after that you're good to go. So I'm going to give this about 5 to 6 minutes to work, and I will be right back with you. All right, so I'm back. We've finished descaling, and I've also run a whole tank of water through for a rinse cycle. Before I did that, and before I rinsed out my carafe, I just saved a little bit of the descaling liquid here to show you kind of what it looks like. This comes off pretty clear because we do pretty routine maintenance on a lot of our drip brewers that we have here in the studio. But there's a slight bluish tinge, and if your descaling liquid is really, really blue or even purple to a tinge, that just means that there's additional limescale deposits, like you have a heavier level of limescale deposits or mineral deposits. And if it's really, really purple, bluish, and cloudy, you may actually want to consider running another cycle of descaling through. It means that your brewer probably does have significant buildup. But if it's coming out milky or just slightly tinged blue, slightly purple, that's a-okay. Then you want to do your rinse cycle, and you should be good to go. And just like that, in about the same time that it takes to brew a cup of coffee, you have a really squeaky clean drip brewer, and it's as easy as that, especially with the liquid descaling solution that I used. I find it to be the easiest. That's my personal recommendation. But if you like the powder, just for storage or anything like that, that's okay too. And Clean Calf is definitely an awesome product to have on hand for lots of different purposes. I wouldn't recommend it for your main descaling procedure, but if you do want to do it every month or so through the water tank instead of just soaking your components like your basket and such, that's perfect. It will prevent a little bit of that limescale buildup, and it will definitely improve the taste of your coffee and get your carafes nice and squeaky clean. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you watching these videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.